Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining the second episode of this year's Lots of Live Lounges. My name's Hannah, I'm going to be your host for the session, and I'm joined by Catherine as well. So if you want to just introduce yourself, Catherine.
Yes, hello, my name's Catherine. I'm here from the university to talk to you all about student finance and how it works.
Perfect, thank you. So Catherine is our resident expert on student finance today, and I work in the Students' Union. So today we're going to be talking all about student finance, how you can apply, where to find out more information, and then we're going to be joined by some of our current students who are going to be answering all your questions on how they found studying at Lincoln and how they've managed their student finances. So if you have any questions at all throughout the whole session, just pop them in the chat and we can answer them. If we don't answer you in this session, don't worry, someone will get back to you later with an answer to your question. But keep throwing them in and we will answer them either during or at the end. So yeah, if we can go straight to Catherine for a quick overview on how to apply for student finance and what it is.
Absolutely. Okay, so student finance for most students comes from Student Finance England, and it's how you fund your studies. It's where you get your money to pay for your tuition fees and also where you get your money to live on while you're studying. So to apply, you apply online. Now, it's not open just yet. It's going to open around mid-March, and you find it on Student Finance England or the gov.uk website. The application's all online. You are expected to provide lots of information about yourself and also information about your parents because they want to know how much student finance you're going to be able to have. The eligibility for this, well, if you're a UK national and you've never been to university before and you haven't been got any, as I say, been to university before, then you will probably be able to get student finance. But if you have questions, if you think you might not be eligible, then we'll be able to answer those questions in the chat. There are some deadlines that you need to be aware of. So to make sure that you get your funding in time for your course. So you need to make your application before the end of May. Now, that doesn't mean if you make your application after that date, you won't get student finance. It just means that the Student Finance England's promise to get that information, that first payment to you at the beginning of your course, they don't promise to do that. So as long as you make your application before the end of May, you should get your funding 3 to 5 working days after teaching starts, and teaching starts the week after Freshers' Week. Okay, so that's a bit of an overview. I'm sure there's lots of questions coming in about that.
Thank you so much. So we will keep an eye on the comments. So we have one question. They've received an offer from the university, but they are unable to study this year. Are they able to defer their offer to the next year and use their finance the year after rather than this year?
Okay, so for student finance purposes, that's absolutely fine. So you to defer your place, you need to speak to the admissions team and they'll be able to give you lots of advice about that. But if you're going to be coming next academic year, then you don't apply for your student finance. This year, you wait until probably about this time next year. Student finance usually opens between February and March each year, preceding when you start your course.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We've also got a question about student finance applying during a foundation year. And if it does apply during that foundation year, will it then be able to cover the rest of the years of education?
Yeah, that's actually an excellent question. So if you want to get student finance for a foundation year, then that foundation year needs to be part of your degree. So usually when you're doing a foundation year, you do what's called like a year zero, and then it's just tacked on to the end of your course. So if it's a 3-year degree with a foundation year, it's a 4-year degree program. And if that's the case, then yes, you can. You need to make sure that you apply for that variant when you do your application for student finance. And it's important to make sure that your foundation year is part of your whole course.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Do we know if student finance is able to cover students from Wales?
Right. there is student finance for people from Wales. You need to Google student finance Wales. All the information that I know at my fingertips is all about England and England's rules. But I do know it's very similar, and I do know that there is a student finance Wales that provides loans for living and also to help with tuition fees. So the detail will be at Student Finance Wales. But yes, loads of information on their website.
Perfect. We've got loads of questions coming through, which is great. If we can't get some more now, don't worry, they will be answered. But we'll pop to another one. So, do we know what will happen if student loan doesn't quite cover accommodation?
Yeah, that is a really good question. And that's where your planning is so important. So, as I've explained, how much maintenance loan, that's the amount of the loan that you get, is really dependent on how much your household income is. So, everybody's student loan for maintenance is really, really different. If your loan doesn't cover your entire rental agreement, you need to find out how you're going to pay for the rest of that. Okay, now you can maybe work part-time. It may be that your family are going to be able to help you, but that's not always the case. So you need to find out now, how much is your rent, how much is your loan, and what will happen if it doesn't quite cover it, because there are limits. So make sure you know that before you make those applications. Do you need to get a part-time job? Is there any help at home?
Brilliant. Thank you so much. This is a really good one as well from Amelia. If they aren't interested in having the section of the maintenance loan in the first semester, are they able to apply for it later on and still receive the same amount of money? May need to consider decreasing the interest on that.
Okay, right. I think that you might want to talk to somebody in a bit more detail if you're worried about this, but I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview. So if you make your application for your student loan, for the maintenance loan, as long as you make it before the deadline, and this is another deadline that I'm going to talk about. So the first deadline was about getting your money at the beginning of your course, but there's a second deadline for student finance, and that deadline is the 9 months after you start your course. If you make your application for any loans at all after that date, you won't get anything at all. But if you make your application during that year, then yes, you can get up to the maximum of your allowance, if that makes sense. However, it's quite complicated and it's quite personal, so it's difficult for me to make general. But if you wanted to talk to somebody, then I'm sure that we could arrange that if you needed to.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got one as well about, is there a limit on how many years of university student finance will cover?
Yes.
So if the course is longer than 3 years, that's not usually an issue, is it?
No. So there are limits to the number of years that you can have funding for, but it's not based on how long your course is. Okay, so student finance say that they will fund the duration of your course plus 1 year. So for most people, that means that they can automatically have 4 years of funding, because most undergraduate courses are 3 years long. But if your course is 4 years or 5 years, then that would be 5 years or 4 years plus 1 year. So it's duration of your course plus 1 year is how that's worked out.
Brilliant, thank you. There's a quick question as well about computer science foundation year, but that's the same answer, isn't it? So that is the duration of the course. Brilliant.
Yes, that's right. Foundation year would just mean the duration of the course is 4 years rather than just 3 years. So that covers that. Yes.
Brilliant. And along the same sort of strain, if the course has a year abroad, do we still get a loan for this year?
Okay, that's also a good question. There is funding for year abroad. So if your course has a compulsory year abroad, so again, you've got an extra year in your course. I don't have all the detail, but we do have while you're studying, and it is available. So if you wanted to either pop something in the chat, we might be able to put some links in for you, but we would definitely be able to talk to you once you'd enrolled to be able to make sure you knew what you were going to do. So it is slightly different when you do a year abroad, but yes, there is funding during that time if it's part of your course.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Bryony is asking, if you don't use all of the money from your student loan, are you able to keep it, or does it come back if it's not all used?
Oh, that is a really good question. So as long as you carry on with your course, if you don't use all that money is yours. That's fine. You can put it in your bank and just leave it there. You don't have to return it to student finance early if you have continued to study and you've just got some left over.
Brilliant. We've got one from Charlie as well about, do I need to apply for finance every year?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes, you do. So each year at this time of the year, all of our students who are currently studying and our new students who are coming in September are all getting ready to start making their applications for their next year's student finance. So in March, everybody's going to start doing it.
Perfect, thank you. I just wanted to ask as well, when will students start repaying their student loan? Could you provide a bit more information around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you don't start repaying your loan until you meet the threshold, which is your income threshold, and it's the April after you've completed your studies. So the threshold for anyone starting who's about to start is £25,000. So you don't pay anything at all until you're earning more than £25,000. And it will start, if you're lucky enough to earn £25,000 or more straight away when you graduate, it will be the April afterwards. However, for most people, it's not straight away and it's a little bit later. So it will start once you start earning more than that threshold.
Brilliant, thank you. Just checking to see if I've missed anything else from the comments. Okay, this is a good question. Do you need to get your university offer before you can apply for student loan?
Oh, yeah, that's a very good question. No, you don't. Okay, this is quite important actually, because as I said, that deadline of May, you might not get your offer until after that date. So it's really important you just make your application as if you're going to your first choice, so that student finance can do all of their calculations. And then if you have to tell them that you're going to a different university, that's fine. You're just changing that information. You're not asking student finance to wait to do those calculations. So no, you don't. Apply as soon as you can.
That's brilliant. Ola has asked a good question. I know this can change quite a lot depending on circumstances. If you attend uni and there's situations where you might need to drop out or interrupt, how can that affect student finance? And if you do ever return to university, are you eligible to apply again?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, because anything can happen. Doesn't matter how much you plan, does it? You never know what might happen. So as I've explained, there is this extra year that's automatic, but there's also something called compelling personal reasons. So if you have to interrupt your studies because something happens, and it could be anything, it's really important that you have evidence of that. So if you've become unwell or something happened with your family, or just tiny examples there, you can apply for something called compelling personal reasons to ask for an extra year's funding if you should need it because of you've used more than you would normally have done. So if anything happens, make sure you keep any evidence, or more importantly, make sure you go and speak to somebody like me at the university, and we can help you make sure you protect that for the future.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. We'll just do the last one or two before we move on to the student panel. So we've got one. How do you apply for the NHS bursary for medical related courses?
Right, that's really good. So the NHS bursary comes from the NHS. So you do apply for it, but you apply for it after you've applied for your student finance, because student funding are the people who will assess your eligibility. And once you've done that, you can apply for the NHS bursary. If you want to ask for any information, we can send you some links. So I think I've got somebody's on the chat. They'll be able to get you some links to be able to get you to the right place for that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And then last question from Maddie. Could you please give a bit of an insight into bursaries for low income families?
Yeah. Okay. So the University of Lincoln has a bursary, and there's based on an income bracket that falls into that description. Now, what happens is when you apply for student finance, you just say that you're happy for the university to have this information, and the university will use the information that you've given to student finance to assess whether you can have a bursary. So you don't actually have to do anything. If you're eligible, this bursary is then paid in 3 instalments through the year, towards the end of each term, actually, to help you through your academic year. So yes, it's really good if you don't have to do anything. I think the most important thing to remember with this is they will use the information you've provided to Student Finance England, the university will do that, to be able to assess whether you're eligible for that, which makes it really simple and really helpful.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Catherine. If your question didn't get answered in the comments, please don't worry, because we've got a team on hand that are answering all your questions. And we might have contacts below. There we go. Perfect. fundingadvice@lincoln.ac.uk for any other questions that you might have about student finance. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We're now going to bring on our amazing student panel who are on hand to answer all your questions about their student finance journey and their budgeting studying at the University of Lincoln. So as soon as we're ready, we'll be able to ask them questions. Perfect. So I will hand over to Caitlin to introduce herself, if that's okay.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Caitlin. I'm an international student from Malaysia, and I'm currently in my final year of my media production degree. Hannah, do you want to go next?
So, hi, everyone. My name is Hannah, and I'm currently in my postgraduate year at Lincoln, and I'm studying data science and applied analytics. So, Joe, if you want to carry on.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joey. I'm in my second year of a politics course here at the Uni of Lincoln.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, guys. I've just got a few questions to ask you guys. So if you want to just go through and kind of talk about your experiences, that would be amazing. So one for all of you, if you want to go in the same order. How have you found managing money at university? And do you have any budgeting tips that you would like to share with everybody?
Yeah, so I have my own personal budgeting method, which I've been using since I was 15, actually. What I do is basically I write down every single expense, purchase, or transaction that I make on a daily basis, because I realize it's a bit of work, but you can also use an app if you want to track your expenses. But I find that seeing the money visually stack up on the page or on my phone makes me a lot less likely to overspend as compared to not being aware of how much money you're spending every day, because it's so easy to just use your Apple Wallet. You just keep tapping and spending, and it accumulates. So my advice is, first of all, decide how much money do you want to save each month. Set a limit to how much money you can spend each month so you can save this amount. And then third of all, keep track of your expenses so that you can stay within the limit and save the amount of money.
Cool. So I just kind of build on what Caitlin said. So I kind of use like a similar method, like tracking my expenses. But before summer, I think I kind of get a rough estimate. So for example, if I've earned some money over summer, that I've saved towards it. But I also try to be realistic with myself. So I'm not very good at sticking to a budget. So for example, during Freshers Week, you just come to the city, you probably going to be, going out a lot more than you usually would once you've got into routine. So I think just being, realistic with yourself, allocating yourself a little bit more money to spend during that time, and then not being too hard on yourself when you don't stick to that budget. But, just kind of reining it back in if you think, oh, what's the budget, and then what's the real limit where, I need to kind of bring it back a little bit. But as long as you kind of have a rough idea with everything that you're doing, like, you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of that. What I did to start, because I wasn't very good at budgeting when I came to uni, because before I had a job and I was able to spend a lot more than I can now. I just work part-time. I opened up a Monzo account because it took about 5 minutes, and I worked out how much student loan I was getting each semester, how much I was spending in accommodation each semester, working out how much I had left, and then just sending a week's worth to myself every week on that, and that works really well. I don't do that anymore because I've learned a bit of discipline now, but that is a really useful tool. Yeah, and I think just being realistic with your spending, and yeah, you will likely spend a lot more money some weeks. Some weeks you'll just buy kind of basic food, but if your friends are doing something, or if something comes up, or you want to go home, it's good to have a little bit of money set aside just to have a bit of fun with it.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Budgeting is definitely a skill that you will learn at university. So if you're worried, don't be. There's so much help available at the university. And there's loads and loads that we can do to help you out. So I'm going to come to Joey first with this one. Are there any cheap or free activities for students to do in Lincoln?
Yeah, I think there's lots. You could spend a whole year and not even leave campus because there's so many free things on at the student union. There's loads of societies you can join for not a lot of money, and a lot of societies do free events as well that anyone can come along to. So that's brilliant. I know the Christian Union this week put a whole week of free events on. There's other societies as well. There's sports that you might need to pay a little bit for at the beginning of the year, but there's a lot of kind of budget friendly options in uni. And then looking out across the city, there's loads of places that offer student discounts and things like there's loads of green space. You can go and hang out with your friends in a park that never costs any money. The castle grounds are free to wander in, and the cathedral's also free to wander in if you've got a student card. So there's lots of things.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I will come to Caitlin next with the same question.
My answer is yes. There are so many activities you can do here for really cheap or free, because as Joey mentioned, the university itself and also our students' union regularly hosts events that not just academic events like workshops and masterclasses, which you can also attend free of charge, but social events. So we have festival celebrations like Diwali, Chinese New Year, international student hangouts, student club nights with really cheap drinks. We have stuff like student fairs, where you can get lots of freebies, you can win prizes, they give out vouchers. And most of these events at UD usually will have free food or drinks. Just recently, we had the exam support week, and they were giving out free breakfast, free lunch, like I think 2 weeks in a row. So you just have to keep up to date with all the events that's going on in the university. So I highly recommend that you follow all our Instagram pages. So the main Lincoln page, the international office, the library, well-being, students union page, because all the events are going to be posted on there. So just follow all of them so that you don't miss out on any of the cool, free, cheap stuff that's happening on campus. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm absolutely going to use my opportunity to talk about the Feel Good program as well. So at the Students' Union, like Joey mentioned, we have a Feel Good program, which is free sport. It happens on a timetable. There is something on almost every day. I think Saturday is our only exception, or Sunday, I can't remember. But there is something almost every day that is completely free to join. You don't ever have to have played that sport before. It's for beginners, it's for experienced. Anyone can go along to it. And students asked for some non-sporty things to do, and we've listened. So we've now also, with our amazing VP Wellbeing and Community, Susanna, created Thoughtful Thursdays. So that happens every second Thursday. It's an extension of the Feel Good program, and we kind of do more mindful stuff. So kind of like yoga, sip and pain, therapy dog sessions, cat cafes, and they are £1 to come to, and that money all goes into the next session. So at the Students' Union, we have tons and tons to keep up with, but thank you so much, everybody. Okay, last question before we open it up to the Q&A, and I'm going to come to Hannah first. Are there many shops or restaurants in Lincoln that have student discount?
Yes, there is absolutely loads. So if you've not been to Lincoln before, the campus is truly like in the centre of Lincoln. It's super walkable to everything around it. And I feel as though the campus itself and like all the students really, like thrive in the centre of it. So there's so many places around. In terms of like student discounts for more nationwide shops, you can look on things like, Uni Day, Student Beans, they'll have all the discounts available. But there's so many independent businesses that also offer student discounts. So it's a really good way to support them as well. So for example, there's a coffee shop that I go to quite a lot. It's called Coffee Depot, and they do 20% off, which is like, quite a saving. And as well, during Freshers Week, you'll kind of like, they usually do loads of like kind of voucher books, discount vouchers, not just the university like Freshers Fairs, in terms of like handing out leaflets. But for example, the Waterside Shopping Centre do a massive like discount student union voucher book in the years that I've been here. And so you can kind of collect those on your week and then kind of, experience all of like the independent businesses, kind of go around and get all the discounts too.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then I'm going to come to Caitlin with the same question, if that's okay.
Yeah, completely agree with Hannah, because Lincoln's a very student-centered city. So lots of shops, not just restaurants, but clothes shops, malls, even random stuff like, spectacle shops, they will have student discounts that range from about 10 to 20%. And actually, when I arrived, again, during Freshers Week, you'll get this thick book of vouchers that you can use at stores around the city. So don't worry, it's fairly easy to find really cheap things to buy or things to do here in Lincoln because it's so student-centered. Even for travel, using the train, the coach, there's a student rail card you can apply for, a coach card. And I find myself spending a lot less than what I expected to before I came here. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. We've got a few questions in the comments. So we'll just go for some of them. So we've got a question from David about how much do you budget for food each month and going out? Does anyone particularly want to go first?
I don't mind answering. So obviously we know, food shops have got like quite a bit more expensive in the past like few months and things. I'd probably say I spend around 25 to 30 pounds on food like per week. But obviously that includes that I get a lot of freezer food and I like batch cook things quite a lot. So it's not the same every week because sometimes I find myself with like so much extra food that I just kind of want to use up. So it kind of really fluctuates per week. But I don't really have like a set amount, if that makes sense. I try and like budget, for example, if I know I'm buying more meat that costs a lot more, I'll be spending more that week. And then if I only need like little like fruit and vegetable top-ups, it'll be a lot less. I don't actually drink, so I obviously save quite a lot of money like going out. I still do enjoy going out, but I'd say that's probably like maybe a once a month thing for me now, especially like because I'm in my postgrad year. So it's obviously a lot less than maybe someone who does drink quite a lot. But saying that, I do go to like activities and things. So I go to the cinema. So in terms of that, I probably allocate around like £20 a week towards that. So I try to keep to a £50 budget, but it does fluctuate quite a lot too.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to this?
Yeah, I think you can really cut down on a food budget if you're batch cooking or if you're being sensible and not buying brands or you're not buying lots and lots and lots of snacks that are really expensive that you could actually eat cheaper alternatives. If I'm not being sensible with my food shop, I could perhaps spend about £45 in a week. But if I'm batch cooking and if I'm buying healthier foods and not buying packs upon packs of really expensive crisps, then I probably only spend about £25.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We have loads of resources in the Students' Union Advice Centre on how to save money and how to keep your food shops cheap. So if you are ever worried about that, there will be loads of help when you get here. So don't panic. I'm going to come back to Joey with this one because this was from one of the things that you talked about. And he's asking what a Monzo account is.
It's just one of those random online banks that seem to advertise everywhere now, and I think probably half of every student in the country will have some kind of online bank. So they don't have bank branches, but they are apps. Obviously, do research before you download one because there will inevitably be some weird ones out there. But if it's a big brand like Monzo or Revolut and you've seen their advertising before, it's probably okay. But just do your due diligence, please. I don't want to be the reason why you've not got any money. But no, so they're quite easy to find. They're usually quite easy to set up because they do the checks online, so you don't have to go into a bank branch like setting up a new bank. I think the reason why I suggested that is you could go into your own bank, or you could go to a different bank branch on the high street. It's quite easy to set up a bank like that. Everyone's obviously done it already at one point, but if you don't even have to leave your own home and you can just do it on your phone, that's nice and easy.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got a lot of questions. There's one from Millie about what she needs to buy before university. So stationery, utensils. There are some hidden costs that you wouldn't think of when you come to university. Kitting out your student accommodation will be one of them. So I'll come to Caitlin. What kind of things do you think students will need to buy before they get here, and what are the costs involved in that?
Right. So apart from all the things that you need in your bedroom, so like bedding, pillows, definitely pots and pans, things for you to cook. Before I came, one thing that actually helped me to settle down faster is that I got all my cooking ingredients. I got a bunch of food. I got everything that I needed to sustain myself for at least a week before I needed to go out and do any shopping or actually think about budgeting and all that. So prepare beforehand the ingredients that you'll need to cook, some snacks, some instant noodles, stuff like that. But apart from that, clothes is another big thing. For me, I moved abroad, so I'm from a tropical country, so I had no winter wear whatsoever. So again, I would highly recommend, if you're moving to a cold country from a hot country, to get at least a puffer jacket, a winter coat, some scarves, gloves, everything that will keep you warm, because it does get quite cold here. And apart from that, there's nothing else that I can think of at the moment. Does Hannah want to take over?
Oh, did you hope you meant me and not the other Hannah?
Yes, sorry.
No, sorry, Jeremy. I'd probably suggest as well, if you just type in like University of Lincoln, not University of Lincoln, University like room checklist. I used that before I came to university, and it's a really good kind of like, there's loads online that you'll find. I know IKEA did one last year as well, and it just kind of helped you to structure like what you have, what you don't have. I think in terms of like clothes and room decor, you don't need as much as you think you do, because you'll probably come to university, you'll be going out and like buying new things for your room, with your housemates and things as well. So I definitely brought too much. So maybe like, try and think like, what am I actually going to use and what am I going to need? Because you're going to have to take it all back at the end of the day anyway. It can just be a bit of a pain if you have too much stuff, which is what happened to me. Another thing I'd suggest as well is maybe holding off buying a kettle or a toaster until you've maybe like spoken to your housemates, because you don't want to end up with like 5 toasters in your flat, and it's something you can kind of like all share throughout your year at university. Someone might have already bought one, so kind of hold off on things like that too.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. I'm just conscious of time, so we're going to start bringing the session to an end. Thank you so much, guys. Everything you said has been really useful. One thing that I will just reiterate, do not panic, because there is so much support for you when you get here and even before you get here. And I know some of the contact details are going to be listed below. So thanks so much to all of our current students that have helped. And Catherine, do you have anything to add?
All I would say is the brilliant budgeting tips and managing your money when you get here were fantastic, and I concur with all of them. And if you have any questions at all, just get in touch as soon as you can.
Perfect. Massive thank you to Catherine as well for answering all of our questions about student finance. And thank you to everyone that's come to listen. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact us.